Once upon a time, there used to be a group of friends who would play games together and upload their playthroughs to YouTube. They were good friends, great friends, some would even say they were super best friends playing games together.
Say that again?
However, over the years their friendship waned until inevitably they had to part ways. The game that started the withering of their friendship was a cursed game. Welcome.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it just crashed.
Yeah! Keep going, go!
I am done.
Omikron is tearing us apart. This LP was a mistake. Yeah, it was a huge mistake. What is happening?
Released in 1999 for PC and 2000 for the Dreamcast, Omikron, the Nomad Soul was the first game made by Quantic Dream, and the first game directed by David Cage. Much like every Cage game, it is a divisive title that some love for its ideas while others completely despise it for what it is. It is the ground zero for many of the Cageisms that would come with many of his games such as Fahrenheit, Heavy Rain and Detroit Become Human.
Jason! Jason!
The game is a mishmash of genres, where you can explore the world in third person, throw hands with demons and dudes who become the lord of the locker room,
Come on, let's go.
and engage in a Quake from Temu game mode sometimes. One of the big selling points of this game was the fact that 10 songs of its soundtrack were composed by David Bowie and Reeves Gabrels, with Bowie even providing his likeness to a character. The premise of the game is that you, the player, receive a request by a man named Kale from a planet from another dimension to enter his body and go back to Omikron to solve the mystery of a case of serial killings that he couldn't solve. Right as you get through the gate, a demon attempts to steal your soul but gets interrupted by a mecha guard. With very few clues, you visit Kale's apartment and can give his wife a surprise premium membership of the Champions Club. As you investigate the circumstances of the death of Kale and his partner Dan, you run into a larger conspiracy, realizing that there are demons secretly ruling this world, with Astaroth being the one leading them. Omikron is a domed city in the planet Phanon, which is living in an ice age since its sun was destroyed. The humans live in domes such as Omikron to protect them from the harsh conditions outside, in a cyberpunk dystopia reigned by a totalitarian government led by an AI, where corporations engage in extreme capitalism, running wild, completely disregarding human life, and even having access to their own PMCs. Consumerism is not just a way of life, it's how it should be, and the culture is based around the bread and circus format, with rigged sports games and harsh punishment for losing teams. The game takes inspiration from works such as Brave New World, Dune, RoboCop, Blade Runner, Neuromancer, and Ghost in the Shell, and tries to blend them all together with demons and magic. It's an interesting concept for sure, but we'll talk more about it later. Omikron has a lot of weird points, especially when it comes down to the jankiness and awkward behavior of the NPCs. I don't think that is healthy, he definitely should see a doctor. But the dialogues definitely take the cake. Trying to interact with things that can't be interacted with causes some funny dialogue to appear on the bottom left of the screen, such as, "I don't know what you do with this," or "nothing interesting." Yeah, you're literally in hell listening to the symphony of the screams of the tormented souls of the damned that are the concrete of these walls and fuel to the infernal machines. Yeah, I guess it's nothing interesting at all. Throughout Omikron, you will learn the most important piece of lore of all, that David Cage might be a bit of a horny dog. The sex shops and strip clubs serve zero purpose other than trying to remind you that exists. I know this was 1990, but if you could do a quick one with this, congrats, I guess? Some of the comments when clicking on the possessable female bodies are just questionable. Yum yum, what a body. Seriously? Might as well just write dialogue like,
Wow, look at the size of those tits! Auga!
Also, Cage doesn't seem like the type of guy who's concerned about being very open about his fetishes. In the grim dark future of Omikron, everyone, not just the sex shop cashier, will be wearing leather.
The leather club's 2 blocks down.
Making this planet a huge BDSM convention. Also, there is no way that you're convincing me that the choice of naming the god venerated by the awakened Viagra Muka wasn't some kind of inner 12-year-old joke.
Now, listen here for a sector. You have to say Viagra.
Cage also went in unnecessary detail about the scene of sleeping with Kale's wife. Yeah, David Cage is definitely something. But let's give credit where it's due. The first few minutes of the game are intriguing enough to convince you to get into this world. Despite the cheesy fourth wall breaking implying that you yourself are being dragged into this world, the world building of Omikron is great. Investigating what happened to Kale before you got into his body and why there are demons about is a great way to kick off the story and help the player discover the world. The game looked fine for 1999 and the world, at least within the first area, feels alive with a lot of NPCs wandering around the streets, and it's interesting enough to go around exploring, trying to find accessible areas and hidden items throughout the world. The voice acting is also good for the time of this game's release, despite a few hiccups of the audio quality going haywire. The music is overall great, with just a few duds. And being able to listen to David Bowie live virtually is really cool, but I'm not really risking playing any of those songs because there's copyright waiting to just strike. They like to come and hit us, but a lawsuit works just fine. The possession mechanic is an interesting concept, albeit a bit of a psychotic one. The fact that we, as the hero, are just willing to throw away as many lives as possible just to achieve our goal is a little bit insane. Especially towards the end of the game, there's no way that the protagonist couldn't just, I don't know, ask Photo to help move the rock instead of doing the low tier god to get into his body. Although barely noticeable, the game does have a night and day cycle and a weather system. So sometimes it can rain. It only happened once during my whole playthrough, but I know that it's there. The world overall has some very interesting concepts, and reading the newspaper or listening to the radio ads inside supermarkets give you more clues about how Omikron is. Now let's talk about the bad. Omikron introduces a lot of characters that should be important for the plot as the story goes on, but they get very little on-screen time and end up being completely forgettable and irrelevant. Some are introduced too late into the game's story, others are simply mentioned or appear one time and that's it. It just feels awkward, as if Cage really felt like he had to fit these characters into the game, but time constraints didn't allow them to be better developed. So at the end of the day you get a lot of these half-baked characters instead of a few well-developed ones. Quality over quantity was definitely not a priority for this game. Cage just vomited as many ideas as he could into it and called it a day. You have this strong dystopian setting where humans have their destiny predetermined by an AI and are treated as disposable subjects by mega corporations. Yet, while this dystopian premise should be enough for the setting of Omikron, there are also demons behind it all. Magic, mysticism, ancient civilizations, alternative realities, fantasy races. And much like the many important characters in this game's plot, none of these elements get properly developed as the story goes on. The spells, for example, are nearly useless, serving mostly only as a way to advance the plot, rather than enhancing the gameplay. The game's pacing is a roller coaster, and for some reason, instead of the events speeding up towards the end of the game, they slow down, which is very confusing. The gameplay suffers from the same issues as the characters and the world building. The gameplay is also not optimal. The third-person exploration mode is very bare bones. The first-person mode is just a half-baked little Quake. There's no point using any guns besides the first one because it has infinite ammo and actually does about the same damage as most of the others. The fighting game is just embarrassing. It's not fun if you're not a big fan of fighting games, and it's even worse if you actually like them, because you learn that it's all about just finding some combo that knocks down your opponent and spamming it whenever they wake up because they can't block it. The controls are overall horrible. It's really rough to control your character in third person, especially when you need to do platforming. The first person main just feels floaty. The fighting game is probably the only instance where the controls feel kind of fine, but the camera messes that up anyway. And you run into lots and lots of bugs. Some are just weird, others are literally game breaking. Such as the one in the secret Tetra facility, which is not secret at all because there's a huge Tetra sign on it. Where there is a bug that if you take the path that is intended for you to take, you just immediately die regardless of how much health you have. So instead of taking the obviously intended path down the ramp, you have to drop into the conveyor belt and hope that you just don't get pushed off. And it doesn't help that this map is huge, there are very few checkpoints in it, and you have a timer to complete it. So dying like this is not ideal. Some of the plot points of this game are unnecessarily convoluted, and others are just straight up nonsensical, such as the secret Tetra facility that I just mentioned, or the location of boss being a mystery, yet he's literally 2 blocks away from the temple that you first visit in Jaunpur. It's fairly easy to forget to pick up quest items and be forced to backtrack. And if, like me, you play the game in short periods, the lack of a quest log might cause you to get a little lost when you come back. Puzzles. I hope you love cross-referencing puzzles, because this game has a lot of them, especially towards the end. Take it as you wish. Also, whoever designed this font has a special place in hell. The boss fights are weak, and the final one in particular ends up being all about cheesing Astaroth and forsaking any attempts of farming gamer cred. It's not interesting, not fun. I'm not wasting any of my time trying to shoot the back of this little Diablo. Just finishing this game is enough gamer credit. I can't be bothered. If I had to describe Omikron as an animal, it would be a duck. Ducks can fly, swim, walk, but they can't do none of those functions well. Likewise, Omikron has a third-person RPG, a first-person shooter, and a fighting game all within one package. But all of them feel lacking. If the game had focused on one of these genres, it would probably have ended up better than it turned out to be. It didn't help that the game got completely outclassed by games that came out around the same time frame and had similar themes or gameplay styles. Omikron was a game that tried to achieve too much and ended up achieving nothing, making it pale in comparison to the strong competition of its time. You can barely find any info about Omikron online, with it having a bare bones wiki, a few playthroughs on YouTube, and a singular guide on GameFAQs. Convoluted with poor controls, a weird world, and somewhat confusing direction, Omikron ended up not being a very popular game despite its ambition, causing it to fall into the realm of forgotten games. When you put this game down for a day, you feel bad for what you're doing with your life. You feel like this game drained your soul faster than a 9-to-5 office job. You just lost your soul. Oh, I get it. David Cage is actually a genius. You see, he hides behind this persona of an inoffensive game developer, making these games that divide the people, with some considering them thoughtful and others calling them pretentious. What he's really doing with his games is inducing the players into a depressed state of mind, so he can break them down and divide them. David Cage. This is not his real name, and it wasn't chosen by accident. His first name, sure, it's his real one. It comes from the ancient king of Israel and Judah. It means the beloved one. This was chosen to give the impression that his parents were very religious people, and as such he was in an environment that made him attuned to the matters of God, a man close to holiness. Pure, good, a lamb of God. But Cage, now this surname obviously means the same as the word. An enclosure, a prison. This surname wants to convince you that he conquered the drives and impulses hidden in the unconscious, the dark side of his mind. He caged in his inner darkness, the animal within, the evil within, to convince the public that he has moved far away from the primitive animalistic tendencies of mankind. That is where the lies? He is the animal himself. The only cage is this mortal coil of deceit that is merely masquerading his true nature, not holding it in. He is the dark side of the mind, the beast enshrouded by the light of consciousness, dormant but fully aware of its surroundings. He is the deceiver, ready to strike his victims when they let their guard down. He is indeed taking our souls with his games, because we would never believe that it's true. He is the wolf in sheep's clothing, preying on the true lambs of God. I just kind of lost my mind playing this game. Well, if you liked the video, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.